with can't can't fulfill their needs, that start asking the big questions. We've talked about some of those last week, and we'll continue to talk about them, credentials and things like that, because 20, 25 more minutes on a 30-minute drive sounds like a lot, but if your kid can accelerate, then that's worth it. But that's, you're at a fork in the road, and that fork can go to another level or two higher for a 15, 20-minute more drive. Yeah, I would make it. I would. But that's just me.
And that's hard to choose. And we've also got a limitation because most parents send their children to a government school or a private school, and the school gets out at 3:00 or whatever time it is. And I got to get to the Dave Matthews Tennis Academy by 4, because it's 4 to 6 are the drills. And coaches are usually understanding of where you're coming from. We've even got in our beginner classes, we've got some kids that stroll in 2, 3, 5 minutes late just because they're rushing to get there. So it isn't as though the parent can just say, sure, we'll drive as far as we need to, because you also just can't get there in time. You're limited by the family schedule within schools. The kids that are homeschooled or that hybrid schooling have much better opportunity. And that's not necessarily the parent this conversation is about, because they've already changed their lifestyle around the academy, where we talk to the Scott Hutchinsons of the world that have their academy and their homeschool group, or the Mark Wileys out in that area that say, hey, we play tennis all day. So how far they will drive, they've already admitted they'll do whatever it takes. They'll change their whole lifestyle. But in this case, it's maybe the typical junior tournament player like I was, thinking about college. And it really is that 30-minute mark. I think people get a bit squeamish.
Yeah, I agree. Somewhere outside of 30 minutes, exactly. People get squeamish. They, I think some people, and the way that, I used to talk with you guys a lot too, is I like, of course we all would like to teach a kid that has unlimited resources, It don't work that way. But I also like to know that if, I have a Shaun that is at X level and he's wanting to go to the next level, and I can help him get there, or we can help him get to that coach or program to get there. I don't want him to put I call it a cloud base over your head. Like, well, I'm ranked at 30 right now. I want to be top 10 in the state, top, 50 in the Southeast. I ain't shooting for just that. To me, that's not low. That's putting a regulator on you. Okay, I just want to go to the next level, blah, blah, blah. Hey, what if you could go somewhere that could go to not only that level, but possibly one step higher with that one move? Start looking a little more outside the box while you're looking, and see if you can get a couple of nuts in one basket. Because if you can, to me, that's at least exposing and looking at all the options. Too many people look at themselves and go, I just want one level higher. And I'm like, no, don't go there. Go to that next level and see if you can hold on. And that's kind of the way I built, you guys, was a lot of the younger guys were holding on to what the older guys were doing. And that in turn made them better, mentally and physically made them better. So, that's what I hope for. I don't know what everybody else is looking for.
Yeah. And that's, you talk about the next level, and that's always a guess. That's always trusting the coach that comes in, that maybe sees you at a tournament, the coach that knocks up and says, hey, where are you training? Oh, good. You're with Coach Dave. That's awesome. If you want something better, you need to call me, right? You got those coaches exist that are maybe poaching players or always looking to improve their academy. I've never run a high-level junior academy. The only one I ever ran was in a private club. So we weren't recruiting kids. It was a different thing. So in that case, it's a bit of, okay, who do I trust? Because there's a bit of zero-sum game with the pros out there. Everybody seems to think they're the best pro that exists. And I don't know anyone, I don't know what the incentive is for anybody like you. You say, Dave, you get an incoming call, and I say, Dave, my son Giovanni, He's thinking about, taking it to the next level. We live in Peachtree City, and we're thinking about coming up to you, and you're just going to look at me and say, don't bother, because it's going to be an hour 45. It's just not going to work. Are you going to have is it humility? What is that to say, hey, you know what? I know Kenyon down there. I know Invited's running the club. Well, they're not anymore. So I know you need to get out of Peachtree City. We'll just put it that way. As my example just got weird all of a sudden. But I'm looking to go to the next place. Do these academies know each other, and to be able to say, hey, look, I can't get you there, or my group of kids can't get you there. I'd love to. There's no referral concept because the academies are so competitive. Isn't that true?
Yeah,
Meeting the witness. I'm sorry.
yeah. Yeah, I think, as our world has become a, business dollar drives the engine, kind of a world. The saddest part is, if I've got somebody, and I've had some kids in the past, recently in the past, that, would go somewhere else, always thinking, I tell people all the time, if somebody approaches you at a tournament, don't run, but ask the right questions. And that's kind of what we're here for, ask, if they're selling you something based on who they have in their academy, those kids leave at some point in time, whether they get older or whatever. At some point in time, every kid has to learn to be a leader. You're going to be the oldest kid in that academy. After about 16 or 17, you are it. You are what's left. And to me, the loyalty that pro has given you, kind of like what we did, you were with me for a long time, which is the case with most of my kids. They understand that when they get to be 16, 17, they are my liaison to those younger kids. And I expect Shaun and the rest of them to act in a certain way so that I don't have to stay on the 10 and 12-year-old. And that is a system to me that is kind of nature driven. It's the way it is. When you get to be a junior and senior in high school, you are looked at by the freshmen and the sophomores as to how to act. And if you act like a complete heel, guess what you're going to get coming up? Even bigger complete heels when they get to be juniors and seniors. So all of a sudden your high school falls apart because your leadership roles and the leaders that led them did not step on them to say, this ain't it. So I tell my kids all the time, if you can find something better for less money, go. Matter of fact, tell me where you're going and I'll send more kids with you. And that's just the way it should be. I don't think I am the greatest coach of ever. I try to be the best that I can be. And if that fulfills your need, then let's dance. Let's dance hard too. We ain't dancing light-footed. We ain't doing a little light step. We're going hard.
I remember. Yeah.
But that's just me. And unfortunately, I think a lot of people in our profession, they get into sales, and I ain't here to sell. I'm here. What I do sells itself. And if you come across me somewhere and it fulfills your need, let's dance.
Yeah. And we've got that radius that says, okay, I like that culture, because you touched back to last week's conversation about environment and culture in what you're looking for, which is one of your choices. But in this case, we've got our radius. I'm in Buford and say, hey, we've got beginners travel even less. So that's a limitation our programs have, where we're only in this spot. And beginners really that's why that traveling coach does so well with the first timers and the beginner lessons, is because I'm not driving 45 minutes a day for my beginner tennis lessons. It's not that important. But once you get good enough, you get to that certain level, and I want to take it to the next level, then the travel becomes more realistic and potentially worth it. And in this case, if I'm looking at that right target, if I'm looking at, a lot of times it's not necessarily the cost, because you realize that next level, you've already decided to pay whatever it takes within reason. You may not afford one of the fancy private ones where you got to buy a membership, and where it really goes that far, or even to take your kids out of a government school, which I would suggest, by the way, but I don't bring politics into it. But in this case, if you really do want to have your child good at something, you've got to find the right coach. You got to find the right environment with that coach. You got to figure out how long you're going to drive, how far you're going to go, and do you have to change your family schedule because of it? Let's say your son's playing tennis and your daughter's doing basketball. Whatever else is going on, families have things going on. This morning it's after Thanksgiving and my family's still having breakfast, and we do this from home, obviously. So in this case, my son's in the background saying, "Hey, Poppy, what are we doing today?" We all have the family that comes into this, and this is a family choice. And how far are you going to drive isn't just once the kid's 16, like I was. Okay, Shaun, you can drive yourself as far as you want, because you also don't just stick your 16-year-old on the road and say, go drive across town every day, because that's dangerous.
Right.
So we have that maximum. What we're really going to say is 30, an hour pretty much, I guess, is rare. I guess 45 minutes, anything over 45 minutes is rare. 30 minutes is probably the range that you need, and you need your little compass thing, what's the pencil with the what is that called?
That's a compass.
That is a compass? Well, I thought the compass was the thing that allows me to see which direction I'm moving.
That is a compass. Two different compasses. There's a compass and a protractor. Compass is the thing.
Thank you. Yes, the protractor is what I'm thinking of. So you need that and say, okay, I'm willing to drive 30 minutes. Here's my 30-minute radius around where I'm willing to go, or the school, or wherever it is, because not all schools are going to have it right there. If you're a GAC, I'll mention Scott Hutchinson again. They got a great program there. You just stay at the school. It's right there. That's where I was, but they didn't have that at the time, so I had to drive from there. So your radius changes depending on where your start point is. But in that case, find that for your family. Find that right spot and say, okay, well, I wish I could play with Dave, but I live just too far away. Hey, Dave, do you have any suggestions for me? And that's one of the things Go Tennis, the podcast we're trying to put together, is a big list of all the academies and say, hey, guys, let's all get together. Let's find out what we do. Why don't you tell us about your culture? Give me your best sales pitch. Call me and say, hey, Shaun, we're the best academy in town. And you know what? The other 100 people are also going to call me and say, we're the best in town. And that's great. Give me your sales pitch. Let's put it together. Let's draw the little radius. Let's find out who doesn't compete with each other and start helping families figure out, hey, you've only got this far to travel. You've only got this time frame. This is one of the things I wanted to do since we started Go Tennis a couple of years ago, is get everybody together. Dave Matthews, you know what? You don't compete with anybody in Peachtree City. So who do you refer down there? Who do you refer out in Marietta? And let's all get together as an industry and help each other, help the families. Say, how far are you willing to drive? Call us. We'll help you figure out who's in range. Is that a decent idea?
Oh, it's Shaun, it's kind of like with my nonprofit, you see somebody running down the road in a car, and you come into an exit ramp that you're going to get off on, and there's 3 or 4 cars in front of you. You all got your blinkers on, and there's this one guy going down the left lane. All of a sudden, he gets screaming over into your exit lane in front of everybody. I'm like, dude, there's enough road, and you're not going to get there any faster. We're in the same line. There are, what I'm relaying that to here is there are more than enough people to teach out there. You can't coach them all. So stop thinking that not turning somebody toward Shaun Boyce's or Justin's or somebody's academy is not going to hurt you. It's going to actually help you, because your reputation is at least going to be honorable and honest. And that's where kind of our world is kind of leading away from. If we're not careful, we think that if we can get by with it, that it's okay. It's not. Do the honest, right thing. And that is, hey, I think you're just too far away from me. I would love, I just had one of my former students message me this last week, wanted me to come down to Atlanta to coach her kids who are now 16 years old, some serving lessons, which I'm kind of known for a little bit. And I said, I'll come down if we can work something out, and I'm in that area, I'll coach them an hour or two, whatever. And she was like, yeah, I just think during the week it's going to be tough. I said, I agree. So she's going to research down there, some people around her area. And I said, I don't really remember too many of the people down there because of, number one, the way the court situation is, ITP, it's really tough because there aren't a lot of extra courts that somebody doesn't have a contract on. So I just kind of block that out of my mind when I'm down there. So, I think what you're doing is a great thing, and I hope it really pans out, and I hope it continually gets better because it can only get better. It's the way our landscape is in the business industry. It's dog eat dog, and I don't like that. I like people just to be honest, and you can't fit everybody's bill. You can't. So don't try to.
Yeah, and I think this direction is a good one. I think getting everybody on board and saying, "Hey, look, we're all part of the same team of helping tennis." And that's the thing. I was talking to Stuart Russell the other day. He wants more team atmosphere, not just in the tournaments, not just on doubles playing in professional level, but as a team atmosphere here, not just the kids, because we get a lot of these former college level coaches that come in and run academies and they run it like a team, but they're also competitive against the other college coaches. And in this case, why don't we say, hey, the coaches are a team? And let's create that idea of saying, hey, you know what? Let's consider Metro Atlanta is one big tennis academy. Okay. I'm going to be on this court in Gwinnett County. You're going to be on that court in Hall County. And Marcelo's going to be out in Cobb County. And we got Kenyon down in Atlanta, whatever county that is, DeKalb, something. And we're all, maybe we can picture it that way and say, hey, where are you as a family? And we'll just circle everybody and say, hey, however far you're willing to drive, this is what's in range. Let's all get together and help these families get it done.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's a great thing that can only help everybody as long as they understand, the landscape and the picture. It's pretty a no-brainer to me, but we know how that goes,
This is true. All right. So if you run a junior academy, call me. My number is easy to find. If you run a beginner program, anything tennis, call me. It's basically what it is in Atlanta. Sure. Because we want to help. We want to get everybody together and say, hey, you know what? Let's fill up everybody's book. Sharing what your books are, sharing how many open spots you have, where are you, what level player what's your demographic. If you tell us that, we can help send families to the right places, and we can take away this idea that there's a zero-sum game here. Dave Matthews, happy Thanksgiving. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week.
You bet, buddy. Have a good week.